Thank you very much, Manuel. So my name is Alvaro Moreno, and as Manuel already explained, I'm not officially an alumni. I'm an imposter here because I already joined the UC3M as a postdoctoral researcher. But I'm gonna explain also my background so that you know where I'm coming from. So I did my PhD in the Netherlands, in the Universiteit Twente. So this was me when I started my PhD, all full of joy and excitement because I saw this really nice picture of the place that I was going to live in, and it's the Netherlands. So it turned out to be something more like that, no? So I was a bit tricked in that aspect, but it was a really good experience. So I did my PhD in fluid mechanics in the physical fluid group. So I specialize in fluid dynamics and so on. And when I graduated in 2019, I took my first postdoctoral experience at MIT. And this was me in the lab because I did all my research career on experiments. And this was something that I wanted to show you because it's something that is very important is that you need to follow also a multidisciplinary approach. Okay, so it's not a bad idea to do something different from your PhD once you go into a postdoctoral career. When I mean something different, I don't mean that you study fluid mechanics and then you decide to do a postdoc in history. What I mean is that you follow a path, but that path can have many different branches. So I started as a fluid dynamicist, working on bubbles and mass transfer, and then I joined a chemistry department to work on how chemistry affects bubbles on electrodes. So it's also fluid mechanics, but from a different perspective. And then after this postdoctoral experience, I joined the UC3M. I started as a normal contract from a project from Stefano that is sitting at the back. And then I was granted a Juan de la Cierva postdoctoral fellowship from the ministry. And right now, currently, I'm working as the Marie Curie postdoctoral fellow. So, in general, what do you think you need to do after your PhD? Well, you can take several paths, of course. The thing is that normally you are asked to leave, okay? It's not normal that you continue in the same institution where you have graduated, except Marco here, for example, that he has graduated at UC3M, did a postdoc at UC3M, now is a professor at UC3M, but that's not a typical situation. Normally you move, and mobility is key actually. Why? Because this is one of the pillars that they are gonna ask you at some point, where have you been to, with how many people you have collaborated, how is your network of collaborators and how wide it is. Okay, so normally you have two options when you finish your PhD. Either you continue with your academic career or you go into industry. You can also have an hybrid of both. This is the situation that I have right now. I'm a part-time postdoctoral fellow at the university and I'm working as an engineer in a company at the City Engineering Group. So I have both jobs at the same time. This is not something typical, okay? And this is just on exceptional cases in which both the company and the university agree on how much time is going to be dedicated to each of the projects. But I'm going to focus today on the academic perspectives that you have. So there are three cases, again, and I have joined this university with the three cases. The first case is that you join with a private contract. There is a project in the group and you get contracted as a team member of that group working on that project, okay? So what are the pros and cons? The pros is that you can directly join a team, okay? And you don't need to be waiting for grants to be awarded or not. And this is similar to the case of Ivan. Ivan started thinking of what was in the future 1 year ahead of time. With a private contract, you directly join the team and you don't need to be waiting for 6 months, 1 year, or 2 years for a fellowship to just be conceived or not, okay? The only problem here, and it's not a problem, but it's a limitation, is that normally private projects are very limited on what you need to do or what you want to do, okay? There is a research target and you are hired or contracted to follow that research target. You can move a bit on the sides and try to do independent stuff, but it's very limited, okay? So normally, the following step is that you apply for national or international fellowships. National fellowships, for example, Juan de la Sierva, the one also that I got when I was a postdoctoral researcher here. Ramón y Cajal, it's for further being independent in the team, okay? Those are very competitive and very limited, so there are thousands of applications, and normally very few are granted. This is one of the limitations. So, and it takes time for them to be resolved. So normally, since you apply until you get a notification on if you have been accepted or not, it takes 8 to 9 months that you are waiting. And also, it's very dependent on your curricular activities. They are going to look at your curriculum, see how productive you have been during your PhD, see how productive you have been during your other postdoctoral activities. And they're going to check how good you are and how good is your hosting group, okay? So it also depends on the laboratories that you're going to be using, if the host group is good enough, and they are going to measure both of them in a balance, and then they are going to decide if you are granted or not, okay? For international fellowships like Marie Curie postdoctoral fellowships or ERC, they are more specialized or more dedicated to, for you to become independent researchers, okay? So you propose an idea, you propose a research line, and you are fully independent to do what you want to do, okay? So it's not anymore on your curriculum. They need to see in your curriculum that you are proactive, that you are independent, that you are not afraid of working on different subjects, but it's not just depending on where you go, it's more depending on yourself, okay? And the only problem that they have is that if the national grants are competitive, these are even more competitive. So there are even more people applying for them and less people who actually get awarded. So these are extremely difficult to get, but the good thing is that they are very well recognized all around Europe and all around the world, of course, okay? So today I'm going to talk especially on this European fellowship called Marie Curie Postdoctoral Fellowships. Okay? Normally, as I said, mobility is key. Because one of the steps, one of the requirements is that you need to prove that you have not been living in the country where you want to go for more than 2 years before the submission deadline. That means that if you do your PhD in Spain, out of Spain. Okay, you need to leave. No way that you can do your PhD in a country and then ask for a Marie Curie to work in the same country. They are going to ask you to leave because you don't fulfill the requirement of 2 years outside of the hosting country. Okay, so for some of you, the situation will be something like that. You don't want to leave Spain. It's very sunny, it's very nice. The food is good. People are nice. Okay, this is very bad thing. For others, will be, yay! I'm out of the university in Spain. Let's go to other adventures. Let's try other stuff and see how it goes. Okay. There are 2 types of individual fellowships or postdoctoral fellowships. There are the individual fellowships, as it says here. It's a 2-year contract. Okay, and during those 2 years contract, you are recommended to do an exchange phase. This exchange is called secondment, and normally it's for a minimum period of 3 to 6 months. Again, the mobility is key. They are going to encourage you to move, and not only move to another country, but once you are working in that country, move to another country so that you can exchange and enlarge your network of collaborators and your knowledge. There is also the global fellowships. Global fellowships, now it's 3-year contract, and 2 of them are in America, in an American institution, and then you are required to come back to Europe and finalize your postdoctoral fellowship in a European institution. This is another kind of, there are other kinds of postdoctoral fellows like co-fund and so on, but these are the ones in which you are the owner of the grant and you can develop your own research idea. Okay? There are 3 pillars once you are writing this. One is excellence. Okay? Excellence is what do you want to do? What is your research idea? What has been done before? How can you contribute to that topic? Okay, they are going to see if your idea is good enough and if it makes sense because it has some background, it has some perspective, and your ideas follow the trend or not, but if it makes sense and you are able to commit or not your target. Now, there is another pillar, which is the impact. European institutions do not want you to be a lab rat and be in the lab all the time and do not see the light. They want you to show what you are doing. They want others to see that their funding is helping the academic and the research community to develop further. Okay, so they will ask you, how will you distribute your knowledge? What conferences are you gonna attend? How are you gonna exchange your knowledge with the rest of the society? This is an essential pillar once you are writing your proposal. And the last one is the implementation and the management. How are you gonna do it? They are gonna ask you for a Gantt chart and see work package 1, work package 2, I'm gonna do this here, I'm gonna do that there, and this is gonna take me this amount of time. And of course, they want to show you, they want you to be aware that there are risks, and those risks need to be taken into account, and how are you gonna go around those risks and see if you are able to survive a research career. Because of course, there are many times in which you get stuck while doing experiments and you need to continue. So they want to see that you are able of continuing with your research idea, even though some drawbacks may occur during that time. And your CV matters, but it's not the only thing that matters here. Your host institution is important because you need to justify that you want to do something and that the hosting group that is going to accept you can provide the material that you need. For example, you need computers. The hosting group needs to have good computers. That's going to add points to your final grade when you propose your idea. Okay? The quality of the research stay. The research stay is not obligatory, but it's recommended. But it's not, I want to go to Melbourne, I want to go to Maldives and spend a very nice 6 months at the beach. No, it's the hosting group, your secondment group, needs to add some value to your research stay. And you also need to have some value to them, okay? They want to see that you exchange your knowledge at all times. So it's very important to decide where you go. My case, for example, my project is called Persevere, and it's an acronym for Physics-Informed Neural Networks for Severe Weather Event Prediction. And this is the logo. And some of the things that I do is I try to predict how weather behaves just by spot and located measurements by weather stations on ground. So this is a video, for example, of the advancements that I have so far. And from the measurements given by weather stations that are located fixed in space and time, you can recover a full fluidic movement of the weather behavior, winds and pressure profiles. Okay, and this is very important, for example, for air transport, because you can go around storms and you can predict if there is something severe happening at an airport, for example. Okay, and something very important once you have an European project. Never forget to put this stacked paragraph to acknowledge your funders. No, they want you to acknowledge every time that you have received funding from the European Union. So, for example, for me, this is a dissemination activity. And they are going to be very happy with this when they see videos and pictures online. Why? Because, as I said, they want the impact, the pillar. They want to show that your research is not just in the lab, that you show your research to the rest of the community. So this is actually really important. And yes, I will thank you all for listening to me, and I will be here for answering any questions that you may have.